Pod Populi, podcast for the people.
I'm running on nothing but faith. There's things far too great that I want to accomplish. I'm hoping 25 hours a day, but something good works out, and I'm just like, dang. Think everything's gonna be okay. Yeah, I'm like, dang. Think you might just know the way. I'm like, dang.
Welcome to Dang.
Dang. Hello, I'm Todd Bridges.
And I'm Betty Jo. And the topic today
Is what?
It's a complex one.
Is it complex or is it a part of American history?
We're talking about racism
It's a part of America.
in honor of Black History Month.
Black History Month. Why we only get a month? Can we have 12 months? It doesn't make any sense. There shouldn't be Black History Month. There really shouldn't. We're a part of America. It should be just every day should be a part of every American that lives here. Because there's more Americans than you're going to give each race a different month. That doesn't make any sense.
So you just think it should go away altogether?
Well, because I just truly believe that it should not be a month, because it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, or Asian, or Hispanic, or Indian. If you live in America, you're part of America, you're American.
I agree with you on that 100%. I'm just surprised that you would want it to be done away, because I think the purpose of it being brought in was so that there would be this emphasis on teaching stuff that has been forgotten.
But it should be celebrating the heritage of people. Like celebrate
all people.
Of all people. Celebrating
like that.
Every month you celebrate a different heritage. That's all it is. But, I do know that we're not colonizers. So most of us have been, we came here, I guess as slaves. But also, from what I'm reading, a lot of us were Africans were all over the world because they were just there. They got transported their kings and stuff, shipped them there just to be a part of all across the nation. So
yeah, and when you really get into studying American history too, the people that were sent here in the colonies, it was a lot of them were it wasn't like the richest, the best, and brightest. They were all staying there. They were sending people were coming.
They were sending the bad people
at
first to America. Is what they were doing.
Yeah, and then people that were trying to escape religious persecution, or people that were just trying to find a way to get out of the class system that was so entrenched and find a better life for themselves. So I think America really does have an interesting founding story because of that. Everybody kind of coming together.
If you think about English had ended slavery long before America did.
Yeah.
They decided they didn't want to be independent of it, I guess, or want to keep doing it. But what's interesting is some of the countries that kept pushing slavery, to this day, those countries are not very strong. You have some of those countries like, if you look at how Spain is, Spain kept slavery pushing it, going further and further, and their independence is not as big as remember, Spanish used to be big. Remember the Spanish? Where they were like conquerors and all that. And it kind of like dipped down because of, I guess, they kept on not doing things for themselves. I think slavery ending in America really helped America become more of a, bigger, stronger. I really believe that.
Well, and I think that's why they picked February. I was reading about it. It's Abraham Lincoln's birthday and Frederick Douglass's birthday are both in February. And so I think that's why they picked that. But what is interesting about this topic, at least from my perspective, is that I remember when the Black Lives Matter movement was really heating up in 2020. And coming from my background, I grew up here in Phoenix, and my parents weren't racist. I'm not racist. I wasn't really taught that there was a difference. Like you said, it's like we're all together. We're all Americans. That was very much my perspective, and there's a lot of Latin diversity here, but there aren't a lot of Black people that live around where I lived. And so I just didn't know how bad the problem was. So when Black Lives Matter kind of started happening and there were the protests and things, I was like, I honestly, legitimately, not even trying to be rude or whatever, I was just like, isn't this already something we resolved? I mean, I know about this, the ending of slavery, right? And then I was familiar with the civil rights movement, and I thought we've already addressed this, right?
I wish it was behind us. I wish it was.
You coming into my life really did open my eyes, and that's some of what we're going to talk about today, because I think there's probably a lot of people like me who don't understand why is this still such an issue? Because we don't face it in our day-to-day lives. So can you share one of your earliest memories of racism? Because I know in your book you talk about how when you guys were in San Francisco.
Yeah, when I was in San Francisco, I didn't experience racism. I just didn't know what it was because we had white friends, we had black friends, we had friends of every race.
And how old were you when you were living in San Francisco?
It was from when I was born all the way to like 8 years old.
Okay.
You know, yeah, no one ever would, you know, say racist things to us. I never heard the N-word, you know. What our mom taught us about slavery wasn't that big, you know. I didn't really learn about slavery until I was in Roots. But so, you know, I never heard bad words. The police were so good to us. They treated us good, you know. If you were caught doing something wrong, police would say, "Hey, I'm going to take you home and tell your parents." You're like, no. You go, "Oh, then you guys better behave out here." That's just
it was
how
just
it was.
treating you like regular kids. And, and it sounds like your neighborhood was that kind of American melting pot with just all kinds of.
I think we had Swedish people who lived next door. We had some Indian people who lived down the street. You know, we had Spanish. You know, we had black. You know, we had white. We had everything that lived around us. So we didn't understand that. But it was when my first experience was when my mom had called, and we were getting a house in Culver City, in Los Angeles, in Culver City, and they, on the phone, they didn't know what color my mom was, and they said, "Oh, your credit's good, Betty. You know, you have the money in the bank. It's great, blah, 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 blah." So we get to Culver City to get the house. We go into the real estate office, and the lady goes, they look at us, and we're like, you know, these African-American family with this giant afros, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have any houses here for sale anymore." And that was our first.
They're all sold.
Yeah, they're all sold. And we're
all
like,
of a sudden.
my mom's like, "They sold that quick?" Yeah, I don't think so. You know, so my mom knew what it was all about because my mom had experiences. She was from Texas, so she had experiences, but I had never experienced it. And that was my first experience with it. My first experience with someone calling us the N-word is when first of all, my mom used one of her friends who was white to end up buying us a house in the neighborhood. So we got it anyway. So then we were walking to school one day. Me and my brother were walking to school with our Spanish friend, and the people drive by and call us the N-word. We had no idea what that was. He goes, "Man, you read they called you?" "Yeah, that's an ignorant person who can't read or write. That's not us. We can read and write." So we kept on walking. And he goes, "No, man, I mean, bye-bye."
Because that's what your mom had taught you that word meant.
Yes, and then when we realized the derogatory part of it, then we were pissed, you know. But so that was the interesting part. And for me, it's just, you know, I had a hard time gathering that no matter how much success you can achieve, but if you're on a different color spectrum of what they're used to, you know, you don't get all the benefits that you should get.
So that is, you know, I've always found that really interesting that you just had to go from San Francisco down to LA.
Yeah.
And what a shift.
Right? It was a huge shift just from that far away.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do you think racism affected your childhood and your journey in the entertainment industry? Because I know in your book you talk about that, and in some ways you think being a black kid was helpful because there wasn't a lot of kids that were black auditioning for parts and things like that. But
when it came to the police in Los Angeles, it was a downside, big downside to it. Well, I tell you, my earliest recollection of I was 12 years old. We moved to the San Fernando Valley. I was riding my bike with a group of my white friends, and they pulled us over and told me my bike, handcuffed me at gunpoint, and told me my bike was stolen. And my friends are all yelling, "Don't you know who that is? That's his bike." And they were like, "Shut up, shut up." You know, and they ended up taking me down to the station, and my mom had to come get me. You know, and my mom, you know, by the time she finished with me, they let the bike go and let me go, but the damage was already being done.
Was it unusual for you to have, like, were other kids not having these kinds of bikes? Like, was there something?
No, I think they just didn't want us in that neighborhood.
Oh,
they just didn't want us in Canoga Park.
Chase you out.
Yeah, that's what they used to do. You know, that we used to call that division the Gestapo division. They didn't want us in that neighborhood, you know. And my neighborhood in the valley was very well mixed. You know, I think there was another black family besides me, and we had an Asian family, you know, an Indian family, and all that. So it ended up to where, you know, when I was 12 years old, this is the other thing I have to say. When I was 12 years old, I was going to the liquor stores. After came home from after Diff'rent Strokes, and I wanted to go get some potato chips and a soda.
At the liquor store?
At a liquor store. So I was driving my bike to the liquor store.
Because it's like the closest store?
Yeah, well, it's right down the street, yeah. Okay. So I ride my bike there, and I went in there, and I bought the stuff. And I come outside, and I look, and I'm surrounded by 7 white kids. And I had to fight my way out of it. They wanted to jump me. They were calling me the N-word, and I fought my way out of it. And I guess they thought I was just somebody who's going to get beat up, but I fought my way. So I think I built up a lot of anger and resentment.
Yeah, because it's
Ton
terrible.
of it, yeah.
Like, what kid should have to face
Yeah.
a crowd of people like that?
Yeah. Well,
simply because
and it's not that I was only facing the crowd of people. Now I'm facing them and the police. So the police harassment continued. Every day driving to Diff'rent Strokes, when I finally got my license at 16, when I was driving to the set of Diff'rent Strokes, I get pulled. I know I was going to get pulled over. When I went through this certain area, because it was only one way through, I knew I was going to get pulled over, and I did. So I used to bring a pair of change of clothes in my car and leave it in my trunk, because I knew once they got me on the ground and sprawled me out at gunpoint and searched me and everything, and then they let me go, I knew that, my clothes were going to be dirty. I knew that.
So you would go to the set and change?
Yeah.
It was just like a regular part of the routine?
It was just a regular part of the routine.
That's terrible.
Yeah. And then when I moved on my own, I ended up with a cross burned on my lawn. They burned a cross on my lawn, yeah, and it said, "End, go home," It was bad.
What neighborhood was that?
This is Canoga Park. It was Canoga Park, yeah.
And
back then,
like,
Canoga Park, back then it was like
about?
70, I would say 70, so 12, 77, 78, up in there, yeah.
Wow.
79, yeah. It was bad for me. And I think for me, I built up a chip on my shoulder is what I did. And I was like, did not like police. And ironically, my best friend today is a police officer, Victor. I didn't like police. I didn't like, and racism, I just couldn't take racism. When I was younger, if you said anything racist, we were fighting. That's just how it was. I couldn't take it. And then on top of that, my dad being an alcoholic, so I had no real safety net, besides my mom. That was my only real, and my brother and sister, those are my real safety net. So it was tough growing up as a kid, especially being black and famous. If I was white and famous, it would have been different. And I remember my mom saying to me that, "Todd, you can't make these mistakes. You're not white." And I never quite understood what she meant by that until I got much older. And I totally understood that. There were no second chances for black actors who made mistakes. There just wasn't. You had to really fight and claw your way back to try to get there. You
mentioned that you didn't learn much about slavery until you were on the set of Roots. Tell us about what it was like to be involved in that.
Well, being involved with Roots was the great part about it was I was on the same episode as Lloyd Bridges. And you know who Lloyd Bridges is? Lloyd and Bo and Jeff Bridges, they're up. Lloyd was the father, Bo and Jeff are the children. And they had ironically, Bo.
And they're white.
Yeah. Ironically, Bo had adopted a kid named Todd Bridges. So everyone kept thinking that was me.
Because Todd Bridges, that's pretty close.
Yeah. So Bo was a fabulous person. I love Bo. Bo was fabulous, and so was Jeff. But Lloyd was on Roots, and Lloyd, I remember I was selling candy for my school, and he told everybody, line up and buy candy for my grandson. Needless to say, I won the prizes that year. But then after that, every show I did, people thought that he was my grandfather. And I was like, no, my grandfather's black. Last I checked, he's a black dude. Live in San Diego, But they kept saying, "Oh, so your grandfather's Lloyd Bridges?" Like, no, my grandfather
he was a good man.
He's Lawrence. Yeah, he was a very, very good guy, and he treated everybody with respect, and it was great just being around him. And he was a funny guy too. He was in that plane movie, the Naked Plane movie, whatever. Not Naked Plane, but one plane movie. He was hilarious. He was a very funny guy.
So in that movie, is it as you're reviewing your script that you're kind of asking your mom questions?
Yeah, I started asking my mom questions, and then I ended up reading the Alex Haley book, and I was blown away.
Which book is that?
It's Alex Haley's book on Roots. Roots. It's called Roots.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up reading that book and then I was like blown away that is what we went through in this country. And I had thought that, and then I was conflicted because they went through that, and here I am going through all this other stuff, and I couldn't figure out, it didn't make any sense. I had thought that America had changed, but it hadn't. Not all of, I can't say all of America, but a lot of it the world that I existed in had not changed, and that destroyed me emotionally. I just thought that it wasn't fair, because I don't know if you should, well, I'm sure you know me, I'm all about what's fair. And if it's not fair, I'm very upset over that. I mean, I've learned to try to move past that now, but for me, it just wasn't fair,
Right.
and I couldn't take things not being fair, so, and then, at least to say it, I ended up, doing exactly, I said, well, if they think I'm this person, I'm going to be the person they think I am, and I ended up doing that, which was a dumb mistake.
So on Roots, you were obviously very young when you guys were doing that, but do you remember amongst the actors that were working on that project with you, was there a hope for what the end result would do? Or was there?
I don't know if we thought that far away, but we just knew that it was such a good project, and we were glad that we wanted to make sure that everyone would be able to see us and our work, because I mean every black actor in Hollywood at that time was in Roots. That's just how it was.
Because that's just all there was.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, they ran out of black kids, and it was like a point to where they're like, oh my gosh, Todd, we need an extra a kid extra. Well, they said, Todd, they paid me some extra money to go way in the field and put a hat on and just be a little kid swinging a hoe.
Because they were really
yeah, it was just everybody was there, and there was so few of us in the business. And and there were so few opportunities for us in the business.
Right.
And I hear a lot John Leguizamo talking about how it is for the Latinos, and I get it. I understand what he's talking about because he's right. There's just not a lot of stuff for everybody. It's just they have their main people, their main actors, and those are the only ones you see in commercials and you see in this. So it's like other races doesn't exist. It's weird. It's crazy weird.
That's what was so unique about Diff'rent Strokes.
Yeah, that's what was so unique about it. Like I told you, we got hate mail from both sides. And then the other part to it,
because the show
was black people, 2 black people and 3 white people.
So you were being cast in a role where you're kind of on the same level, right? Instead of
the same level, instead of being behind. But I can tell you this: on the other side of the coin, we don't have much opportunity from our own people. So if you're kicked down by the one race, your own people will kick you down too, and that's not how the other races treat each other. So you feel like
there's not a camaraderie?
No, I don't think most of us black actors would agree with that. It's just not. It's like they don't like, the only ever black show I've ever been on was Everybody Hates Chris. That's it. As good as I am as an actor, as long as I've been sober, which is, going on 32 years, February 24th, 32 years, when we get to that part, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That I wouldn't be on any other show. What do they not see me as being black? Of course, I am black. So that far, you can't see me from being black. So it's just really strange and weird that takes place, in this country with us too. And we kind of call it the crab in the barrel syndrome, which means that, when a black person is trying to climb up, as soon as he falls, there's a next guy stepping on him trying to get up to take his place. Instead of helping each other and pulling each other forward to make better for each other, we don't do that. And the tendency, I'll give you a prime example is Robert Downey Jr. went through all that trouble, but yet Mel Gibson reached out and grabbed his hand, pulled him up, kept pulling him up until he finally got to where he was supposed to be. And that's the difference between how races treat each other in this business.
Wow. Were there moments on set or in Hollywood where you feel like you faced racial prejudice?
Oh yeah.
We know we were getting it from the police.
Yeah, but there was a time where I was doing this. Movie, and I was the lead in the movie. I was a kid. I was leading the movie, and it just so happens how God does work is my mom happened to get both contracts, mine and this kid this kid was only on for 3 days. I was on for the entire month, because I was the lead in it. And my mom goes, this can't be right. They go, wait a minute. How are they paying him this and paying this kid this?
So the kid that was only there for 3 days was getting paid more than you.
Yeah. And I've heard stories like that happening a bunch of times, where,
What did your mom do? Do you know?
My mom said, well, I'll tell you what, we will walk off this set and not do this movie anymore, and you can sue us if you want to, or you pay my son way more than you're paying this kid. And, then they were trying to make excuses for what happened. I'm sure they were shocked. I think that somehow someone put that in my mom's hands on purpose.
What show was that? Do you remember?
I don't remember what that was. I was a kid, so my mom would have remembered if she was still here.
Bad,
yeah. But it was like that a lot, and that's one of the things is, the pay scale usually goes the white actor, the black male actor, then the white female actor, then the black female. That's how the pay usually goes.
So do you feel like the opportunities, how do you think the opportunities have gone with?
Well, I feel that, I had lots of opportunity, but when I fell off and, messed myself up, I didn't get the opportunity anymore. And they still get the opportunities.
So you feel like what you were saying before, it's the second chances.
Oh yeah, they don't get, everyone else gets second, third, fourth, and fifths, and we don't get those.
So, who are Black historical figures that have meant something in your life? Are there some?
Oh yeah.
Let's go
for me, Red Fox. He was a big act. That's one of the persons I loved. He was great to me.
Isn't he the one you were watching?
Yes, I was watching on
when you
TV
were-
when I decided I want to be an actor.
Yeah.
Meeting Sammy Davis Jr. He just adored me. I adored him, and it was great just watching him. Lena Horne is another actress that they just, some of the things that they were able to tell me and help me through, was just amazing. And, and I would definitely say, who else would I would say? Muhammad Ali, his story, and what he was able to accomplish and get done. I just think, and always Dr. Martin Luther King, always. That's another figure that, the stuff that he wasn't just fighting for the rights of Black people. He was fighting for the rights of everybody who was poor. That's what he was doing,
Yeah.
So.
And you guys have had connections to them, right?
Yeah, to which ones? Muhammad Ali?
No, Martin Luther King.
Yeah,
and
we've known people who've known them.
I know you go down to Louisiana and do work with
I do a lot of work for
Some of
a
his
lot of the Black
descendants.
organizations in Louisiana, especially after the hurricanes and the storms, the big storms they have. We help feed the homeless. We help do all kinds of stuff, get people back on their feet. We do a lot of work like that. I've always done a lot of work for my people.
What's it like down in Louisiana? How is it different than LA?
Well, the difference is the majority of us are down there. So, it's not somewhere you can go and not see your people. You know what I mean? And it's like the only time I ever felt not different and completely fitting in was when I went to Jamaica, because white people are the outside source.
So tell us why you went to Jamaica, because I think that's super interesting.
I went to Jamaica because the police came to my mom's house, 2 Black officers, and told my mom that.
So go back before that.
Okay.
You guys had taken
Yeah.
LAPD to court, right?
Yeah, we took LA to court and we sued them and we won. We go back to what happened was they tried to arrest me for stealing my own car. That's how it started. I was sitting in the driveway in my car. My battery had went dead. I left my lights on that night after coming home. My battery went dead, and it was a Porsche I was sitting in. I'm sitting in my car, waiting for the battery to charge up so I could turn the car off. And all of a sudden, I look behind me, and I see a cop behind me with his gun. I'm going, get out, get out. I'm like, well, wait, what's going on? Go, get out. So I get out, my hands in the air, and they go, put your hands on your head, blah, blah. I'm like, what's going on? Because you stolen
So
car.
you're literally in your own
In my own car, in my own
your
driveway, yeah.
And you're being
And
called out of the car by the police at gunpoint.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they told me that I stole this car, and I'm like, well, would you like to see my driver's license and registration? They were like, shut up. So then my brother comes out, they grab him, handcuff him, and I guess he's a part of it. So they throw us both in the car. My friend Lee comes out, who's a white guy, and he goes, what's going on? He goes, well, what are you guys doing? This is a stolen car. He goes, no, it's not a stolen car. That's his car. And they go, well, they were pushing it down the street. Well, then you got to arrest all of us because I was pushing it with them. And they go, you just get back. And I told Lee, go get my mom. So Lee ran down the block. My mom didn't live too far away from that house. Lee ran down there, got my mom, brought my mom back. And, and then all the neighbors started coming out of all the houses. They were yelling at the police because they were pissed about seeing that I had done nothing wrong.
How old were you?
I was 17.
Okay.
They were yelling at 16, sorry. They were yelling at the police, go, get a let go of this car, blah, blah. So then they called for backup, and then it ended up being tons of police out there. They're trying to keep people away, type of thing. And my mom came down there, and she was just hollering at everybody. And then it got resolved because my mom made them let us go. And, and it's like, and at that point, I was tired of it. I was done with the harassment, done with all the stuff, So my mom, hired an attorney, Johnny Cochran's firm, and we sued and we won.
You sued them for harassment?
Yeah.
Okay, wait. This is a little bit unrelated, but you were living alone in that house when you were 16?
I was living in, I'm sorry. So then I was 18, sorry.
Okay, I was
18,
like, how
sorry.
could you be?
Yeah, I had to be 18.
Yeah,
that's
so you
what
were living in this house with
but Jimmy lived
Jimmy
there.
with-
Jimmy lived there, and
your mom was
another
like down
person
the block.
there. Yeah, my mom was down the block. Yeah, Jimmy lived there. Because I moved out at 17 and a half. I moved out, no, it was more than 17 and a half. I moved out right when I was about to turn 18.
Okay.
I moved out. And
So it was when you were 18?
That was when I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah. That's right.
So you guys took him to court for harassment,
Yeah.
and then you won.
We won, yes.
And then after that?
After that's when things got really bad. And we had these 2 police officers who, Black police officers came to my mom's house and said, look, they're going to try to kill your son. We're hearing in roll call, his name comes up all the time. They're going to put a gun on him and shoot him. So you should tell your son, if he's off of work right now, he should leave. So I decided that, okay, I'm going to go to Jamaica So I went to Jamaica.
How did you pick Jamaica?
I just wanted to go somewhere where there was black people at. You know what I mean? Where there was a lot of black people at. So I went to Jamaica, and while I was in Jamaica, they kicked my front door down. They said that someone personally saw me take my gun and shoot my gun into somebody's window.
So they're just making stuff up.
Oh, well, yeah, because this is how they're making it up. They kick the door down. They come in. They arrest my friend Jeff. They arrest him. And they're like, where's Todd? Where's Todd? It's like, he's in Jamaica. He's been there for a month. So it couldn't have been him, you know. And then they end up letting Jeff go, you know, and then that's when the lawsuit occurred. That's when the lawsuit occurred. Thinking about it, that's when the lawsuit occurred, was after that. Because then it had gone too far. But the fear that I've always had was...
So what do you think was... Okay, so they weren't retaliating for the lawsuit.
No, they were just tired of us, you know, giving them... See, they weren't used to somebody of African-American descent giving them flack back. They weren't used to that. They didn't want that happening.
So it was while you were in Jamaica, that's when you guys did the lawsuit.
Yeah, and then, you know, we ended up winning for that. So
what did they do? Did they do anything more after that, or did that shut it down?
No, it didn't shut it down yet. We actually had to call Mayor Tom Bradley. And Johnny Cochran got a hold of Mayor Tom Bradley. At the time was a black mayor. And he's the one that ended up getting him off my back. But it still didn't stop. You know, it wasn't as bad, but it didn't stop. You know, so...
did it ever stop, or that you ended up in jail then, right? So it kind of...
Did it ever stop? Yeah, it stopped eventually. But no, yeah, I didn't end up in jail because that was my own doing. You know, I put myself in the wrong situations. It's because I think that when somebody is beat on so long or just pushed down, you become exactly what they think you are.
Yeah, and we've already gone through the perfect storm that was kind of created. You had the issues with your dad. You had, you know, the sexual abuse from your childhood. Then on top of that, all of this. Yeah. And then somehow white powder under your carpet in your house, right? Like,
yeah, it was the perfect storm for becoming an addict, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But, you know, I look back today and I ask myself, could I have handled it differently? Some of it I probably could have, but I'm just not a person that backs down to bigotry. I can't.
And it's really hard because if, you know, a little bit as an outsider, right? I'm like an outside observer to some of this, and it feels a lot like that, you know, they talk about that you know, visualize what you want because then it will manifest itself. It's almost like you see that happening here. It's sort of like the Wicked movie too, right? Where I like that movie where it's really talking about, well, who's really the wicked one, right? The one who's really to stand up for stuff, and so then they get characterized badly, or the person who was just going through the flow and not standing for anything, that's wearing pink and frou-frou and
they don't like people standing up for stuff.
I think that we see that here in real life, that it's like, look, we kept boxing him in. We kept saying this to him, and then we're surprised that he becomes that. Yeah. Right?
Oh, like, and it's the thing where, you know, it's like, to me, if you don't stand up for your rights, who else is going to stand up for it? You have to stand up for your rights. You know, and my thing is, I'm going to stand up for right or wrong, whether it kills me or not. I have to. Otherwise, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Well, and like we said at the beginning, I mean, it's too bad that racism still exists, right? It really is sad. What advice would you share with other especially young black people?
Well, what I always say is, stay true to who you are, and don't be afraid to love whoever you want to love. Do whatever you want to be, and you can move forward. You can always move forward. You don't have to stay stuck. You can always keep yourself on a positive, because there are a lot of roads now that can help you move forward and manifest and go through things.
Yeah, so exercise your ability to choose.
Yes.
Exercise your ability to ask for help.
Choosing your friends is the thing that's the most important. And that's what, if I would have known that back then, that your choice of friends are the most important. Because I have some friends that I'm, you know, very loyal to, and they're very loyal to me, and we're good friends, and they were the right friends. But at, you know, some point, unfortunately, you leave those and you take on the negative part. And, you know, just don't let it get you down. Yes, there is stereotypes out there. There's racism out there. And I think there's going to always be racism in this country. How do you move past that? You just don't let it bother you. You know, if that person's racist, that means that they're insecure and they're ignorant and they're stupid. And you got to just go on with that. You got to laugh at them, you know, and not let yourself succumb to that, you know, to what they want to do to you, which is destroy you emotionally.
Yeah.
I think this country, for me, what scares me about this country is we're not headed toward a good place, and that's what's scary. I want us to be all, as Americans, to start uniting and loving each other, but I think it's difficult for that to happen in this country because we all have our own stereotypes, we all have our own insecurities, our own racisms. We hate certain things, and I just think that it's an easier way to get there. And for black kids in this country today, learn who you are inside, learn about your roots. I think that's very important for black kids today. Because today, when growing up, we didn't know that we invented all these things that we know today. We had no idea. We didn't know we could be doctors, we can be lawyers, we can be a president of the United States. We didn't know that, because we had never seen somebody, a president of our color. We had never seen that before in our lives, so.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all this.
No. I think that, maybe one day I'll be president. No, I'm just kidding. I do not want to be president of the United States.
Well, dang.
Yeah, and that is a dang.
That is a lot.
Yes, it's a lot, I think that it's unfortunate that in this country that we can't just look at each other and treat each other for our actions instead of how we look. That'd be the best thing. So
that would be the best.
Dang.
Let's hope for that.
Let's hope for that. This podcast is produced by my wife, Betty Jo Bridges, in collaboration with Pop Populi, and edited by our daughter, Adelie Ann.
She is also the musician responsible for our theme music, so go check out Adelie Ann wherever you stream your music. Have a question or topic you want us to cover? Send us your suggestions at dangpodcast.com.
If you would do me a quick favor, please subscribe or rate our podcast to make it easier for others to find. Have a great week.
I'm running on nothing but faith. There's things far too great that I want to accomplish.